All right, let's talk about the housing market. Because let's be honest, if you've been following the headlines, it is all over the place. One minute you hear it's crashing, the next it's absolutely booming. So what's the real story? Well, today we're going to cut right through that noise, dive into the actual data, and figure out what is really going on.
So let's just get right to it. The big question on everyone's mind: is the housing market exploding again? Are we seeing the start of another frenzy? That's what we're here to find out. And this, right here, is where it all gets so interesting. You've got the headlines shouting, "Demand rebounds!" But then you look at the cold, hard data, and the story it tells is, well, it's a lot more back to normal. Let's unpack what that really means. Okay, so first things first, let's tackle the biggest piece of the puzzle: demand. What in the world is driving these headlines, and what's the real story hiding behind all the numbers? This is the number that has everyone talking. Just under 60,000 new homes went into contract in a single week. Now, on the surface, that sounds huge, right? It looks like a massive surge in buying. But is that what's actually happening? Well, not quite. According to Logan Mahashami, who is the lead analyst over at HousingWire, this isn't some brand new boom. He says it's just the market normalizing. See, a big snowstorm back in late January really slowed everything down. So what we're seeing now is just catch-up activity, not some wild new acceleration. And that's really the main point here. Think of it as a rebound, not a rocket ship. The market was kind of pushed down for a couple of weeks by the weather, and now it's just bouncing back to where it should be. It's getting back on its feet, that's all. Okay, so if demand is just getting back to normal, what about the other side of the equation? Let's talk supply. What's going on with the number of homes that are actually for sale? This chart tells you pretty much everything you need to know. Yeah, we saw over 54,000 new listings. Sounds like a lot, but you gotta look closer. That's actually less than the same week last year, and it is nowhere near the 80,000 plus listings we'd see in a peak week. So we're talking about a slow trickle of homes, definitely not a flood. And here's another really critical piece of information. The rate of inventory growth, how fast new homes are hitting the market, has slowed way, way down. I mean, it went from a 33% year-over-year growth rate all the way down to just over 8%. That massive slowdown is exactly why the market still feels so tight for buyers. So we have demand that's normalizing and a supply that's still pretty tight. What does that do to home prices? This, my friends, is the ultimate reality check for any housing market. Now, this is fascinating. Almost a third, 32% of all homes currently listed for sale have had a price cut. Just let that sink in. In a red-hot, booming market, you would never see that. Sellers would just be getting whatever they ask for. This is a huge clue about the true temperature of the market. You know, this price cut percentage is one of my favorite indicators because it shows you who really has the power. Historically, about a third of homes on the market get a price cut. We're sitting right at that level now. And what that tells us is that buyers are being careful, they're price sensitive, and they have some real negotiating leverage. It is definitely not a one-sided seller's game anymore. All right, we've gone through demand, we've looked at supply, and we've checked in on prices. So what's the big takeaway? What does this all mean for you? Let's put all the pieces together. So if you're going to remember anything, remember this. First, the market is normalizing. It is not accelerating into some new frenzy. That so-called demand boom, it was really just a rebound from a snowstorm. Third, supply is still very tight, way below historical levels. And finally, all those price cuts prove that buyers, you guys, actually have some leverage right now. And that brings us to the big question looking forward. As we head into the traditionally busy spring season, is this delicate balance going to hold? Or is the market finally going to pick a clear direction, either up or down? We are definitely going to be watching.